What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in for episode 2. We're back at it, talking about A1. No longer having to speculate about what's going to happen. Finally able to talk about what did happen. This week, we've got Cole Beach back with us again, joining us. He was at Angel Stadium shooting for Align Media. Also at Angel Stadium was Jack Courtney, New England's Supercross superfan, who made the trip out to California to be there to experience it firsthand. And we have Keith Johnson with us, who has raced A1 a handful of times. What better person to ask than the man himself, Keith? A1, did it meet the hype?
It always does for me. I saw a lot of people online saying it wasn't the most exciting race, but I thought it was exciting. I mean, Roczen got out front and kind of took off, which was cool for him. I'm glad to see him win. I like to see him win. And that was kind of boring in a sense, but everything that went on behind him, man, I thought it was pretty cool. A lot of stuff going on.
I saw online somebody called it the most exciting, boring race ever, which was well put.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Jack Courtney, welcome back to the East Coast. I gotta know, you went all the way to California to experience A1 firsthand. Did it meet the hype?
Oh, it exceeded the hype, man. Me being a longtime fan, I had this expectation built up and it blew it away. Like, the second I walked in, you could almost just feel it. Like, people use the word vibe a lot, but seriously, it was crazy busy. And then opening ceremonies was I had goosebumps in the stands. It was just breathtaking, honestly. It was so cool, especially with me being such a nerd, honestly, with this stuff. So it was, honestly, when it comes to Moto and the memories I've made and stuff, that's up there on what I've done and seen. So it was awesome.
So you might have just kind of answered it. What was the coolest part about it?
Oh, opening ceremonies, bar none. It was, I don't think they spared any expense on the pyrotechnics.
No.
but it was unreal. Kenny's opening ceremonies was so badass. He came out to the used Bird and the Worm. Dude, it was so badass. He can't even put into words.
All right, let's talk about the racing. Keith, who did you have your eye on in that 450 main?
We'll talk about it, but I had some guys that I was kind of pulling for that were coming through. Not that I'm a huge Jason Anderson fan, but I am. I like the guy. Making the switch, and I've heard some good things about him down there, really working hard out there and behind the scenes stuff that you don't see online, that they don't post. And I just had a good feeling about him, and he was coming, right? And then he got bam-bammed, and that put an end to it. But I'm also a Justin Barcia fan too. I love the kid. I've known him since he was a little guy, and so it was kind of,
Speaking of that incident between Barcia and Anderson, I asked Cole Beach when he was down on the floor shooting if he noticed at any point throughout the night, what really got the crowd fired up. When were they the loudest?
There was those two takeouts between Marvin and Malcolm and Anderson and Barcia, and I wasn't even near those, but luckily Emery got a couple of photos that we will input here for Anderson and Barcia's takeout, where you don't really realize what's going on the track because you're in another section while you're being on the floor until you hear that crowd erupt. And between the start and the takeouts, the crowd goes nuts for those two. So that probably got them going the most.
With all the chaos that was going on, good or bad, what stood out to you the most?
The track I liked. I don't know what you thought, but last year it seemed like there was a lot of tracks that were really hard to pass. It seemed like this weekend there were some passing opportunities, that big, long, sweeping thing, and up over that one single towards the end of it into a rhythm section. And it seemed like there was a lot of passes being made there. The whoop section, it was separating everybody, which I liked. So that was one thing that stood out, was I really liked the track. For the racing part of it. As far as racing, so much. It's funny because you're surprised by everything, but then you're not surprised by anything, if that makes sense, right? So I think Mookie is going to gain some traction and come alive. You know, usually he gets out front and he's blistering and he's gone and then fades, right? I think this year now, you know, down there training with those guys at the Baker factory, I think once he settles in a little bit and finds his groove, he's going to set fire and be one of the guys, I think.
So I am curious, all this discussion of the whoops, right? They were too big for A1. Do you think that is even a discussion worth having?
No, I'm always a fan of big whoops. It separates who came into the season prepared and who didn't, and also it creates kind of two different ways of attacking them. Some guys were taking those 90s before the whoops and cutting in and then doubling and tripling through them, while other guys would, you know, go outside and square up and then try to skim them as long as they could. So I'm a fan of big whoops.
So the reason I have Jack Courtney on here this week is to talk to us about the fan experience. What did you think about watching the race in person versus on TV?
As much as you see things in person, you do miss a few things depending on where you're sitting. Like, I didn't get a good look at the Marvin on Mook thing, so that I was kind of just like, oh, you just go with the crowd, right? Like, you don't really see it, but you do get to see people fading off and stuff like that more in person. Like, you get to really see who's charging late at the end, not just kind of like, you know, say if like Eli, right? He kind of had a very so-so blah main event, kind of due to a bad start. But you wouldn't really see, like, on TV that he kind of got lucky by all the chaos to get a sixth, but you kind of, when you're there in person, you see everything that's happening and kind of sneaking through the pack. So you kind of pick up on like little things and stuff like that. But
it's give and take. I mean, the pros definitely do outweigh the cons, but there are the, you know, you don't really have the replays. You don't always know everything going on where, you know, Ricky or Blair or Lee Duffy are normally able to break things down for you, but I would say the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Especially when it's a California round starting at 7:00 and you live on the East Coast.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, that's for sure. Like, there's plenty of Supercross nights. You're up to like 1:30 in the morning, then you're like so jacked up you can't even go to bed. You know.
I wasn't gonna stay up and watch it. Right. I was gonna do the heat races and call it. So I did the heat races, and then so many people were going to the LCQ. I was like, well, that was going to be pretty good. It's only in a few more minutes. I'll watch that. I'll watch this. And then next thing you know, it says 250 main gate drop in 10 minutes. All right, I'll stick around for that. And then it's like, oh, shit, it's almost 1:00, but I can't watch everything but the 450 main, so I guess here we are.
Yeah.
And then did it run late or something, because then, I just shut it off and went to bed. It was 1:30. I was like, shit. I feel like we're going into Oakland with as many questions unanswered as we went into A1 with.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about Supercross these days, right? Is nothing is going to surprise you. You know, if Roczen goes and finishes 6th this weekend, and Anderson wins, and Mookie gets 2nd or 3rd, nobody's going to be surprised. You know, it's just the way it is, right? I mean, these guys are so close in talent and speed and everything now. Nothing seems to surprise anybody anymore. Nobody can, like, really with authority, you know, call what's going to happen in the race, because, I mean, anything can happen and these guys are so close. That's what I love about it. That's what's the cool part about it.
Everybody who we thought was going to be fast kind of showed it, but there was so much chaos. Nobody really got to the place where they probably should have. What are you most excited to see continue into Oakland?
Honestly, I think I'm excited to see in the 450 class if Roczen will be able to hold this standard of, you know, of winning by, he won by 8 or 9 seconds. If he'll be able to hold that for, you know, another race or two, or when will that fall off come? Because he put up the video of him, you know, having that sickness in December, and he's always had these problems. So it really just is a matter of when will it affect him going down the long stretch.
So this question doesn't really pertain to A1 specifically, but I asked Keith who he had the most respect for of all the 450 riders.
Ken Roczen, for me, to come back from that sort of injury, man, to ride and be at the level that he's at, the mental fortitude that it takes to do that is insane. I mean, if somebody were to have that same accident, that isn't a racer, say you get in a car accident and have that same injury as Ken Roczen, I mean, they'd have a hard time tying their shoes, and eating with a fork or whatever. And this guy comes back to win Supercrosses and outdoors and hunt for championships, and not once but twice. And he's just so good on a dirt bike. He sometimes makes it look so effortless. So I got a lot of respect for Kenny. I think I'm always pulling for him to win a championship, because he truly feels like he doesn't ever take it for granted.
All right, so going back to you, Jack, what surprised you from what you'd expected? Like, what was a little bit of a shock to, like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this happened, or I didn't realize how cool this would be?
I think it's just the amount of people that are there, like industry people. I've never been to the West Coast, so a lot of that is like, me never being there, seeing people in person, right? So it just seemed like everyone was there. Like everyone that you would think would be there kind of was there in a way.
I know that you're a big Papa Mex fan. I got to know, did you see Steve Matthes, and did you say what's up to him or anything?
Oh, of course. We broke down about e-bikes for about 10 minutes after the Fly Racing radio show.
All right, that's good to hear.
It was glorious.
Knowing how much of a fan you are, I would have slapped you if you saw him and didn't go say anything to him.
Oh, no, we broke down. Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Steve, let's ask him about the race.
Danny Stu, what's up, man?
So A1 was action-packed. It did not disappoint. With all the chaos going on out on the track, who do you think benefited from that the most?
I think AP, without a doubt. Yep. AP. He didn't look great, and then he stayed steady and everything else. I go AP.
AP, thank you for coming on. Keith, this is a question for you. When you were traveling at the pro level, was there a camaraderie amongst the Northeast guys?
Yeah, absolutely. John Dowdy and I were friends, before all that, and we kind of had different paths and didn't spend as much time as we probably should have together early on. And same with Doug, he had a little bit different path, but the camaraderie was always there, when we did travel together, and that never changed.
So since we're talking about A1 today, was there a special race that stands out to you when you were racing 30 years ago?
I remember being in the last chance qualifier and battling with Larry Ward. We were in the last transfer spot, and the entire moto was just kind of going back and forth. It was a weird little tricky, tight track, and I was protecting lines. He was clearly faster, but I was kind of protecting my insides, and he came into me on a turn, nothing bad, just the way his front wheel hit my back wheel, it just popped my chain off instantly with like 3 turns to go. And I just remember thinking, man, like all you want to do is line up at A1. You want to be in the main event, and I was 3 turns away, and that was the end of my race. Just went walking back to the pits with my tail between my legs.
Well, I was hoping for a happy one, but they're not all good days.
Yeah.
Well, Cole Beach, you were there shooting for Alliant Media, who was kind enough to supply us these photos for the video. What was your favorite photo? Are you able to pick one?
Good question. I'm actually, one of my jobs this afternoon is to continue going through my photos, since I finished all my editing, but I haven't gotten to sit back and actually take in the photos yet. Just being so busy with everything else. I don't know, the first things that come to mind are, I always like getting photos of the guys rolling down the tunnel, and got some cool ones of Plessinger, going like this to me in a good mood, and Barcia smiling at me. So you get to see them in the morning of practice or before practice, and they're just in a good mood, ready to kind of get it going. And
all right, guys, thank you for tuning in and watching our bench racing race recap. A little bit of a off-topic discussion about A1 and different things. I know I'm excited for Oakland. Hopefully we do an episode 3. With that being said, leave a comment. Let us know what you think could be done differently, what could certainly be done better. Keep an eye out for episode 3, and if you see it, please watch it. Thank you.